Welcome to the Cornbread and Kool-Aid podcast. My name is Demetrius, as always, following Detroit Lions games, 2023 Week 5. And always acknowledge the super producer extraordinaire, Mr. Mike Ward. I appreciate you listening. Um, any type of love you can show is always welcome. Subscribe, like, retweet, anything like it. For me, this is simple. And if you are a fan or just someone who enjoys listening, I'm pretty straightforward. And I always say the same thing. There's literally 100 Detroit Lions podcasts you can listen to. Um, and this is the fifth year. And for 4 years, it's been really hard for me. It's been really hard for me to do because it has not always been as fun as it has been this year, even in the loss. Um, but this is our team, and my thought was always there's a place in the fandom for fans like me, fans who are always positive, always optimistic, who eat the cornbread and drink the Kool-Aid. There's a place. And as I've been doing the podcast, I've got to meet other ones like me who are similar to uh, my man James Moten is right there with me. People who literally eat the cornbread and drink the Kool-Aid the way I do, and it's cool. It was even cool when we weren't good. Now it's just downright fun, right? So today I got an experience. I'm starting to get these experiences that as a Lions fan we're not used to. Today was almost boring, right? And I'm not supposed to say that kind of thing. And I loved it. I watch every play, not just for the podcast. And this is the second week in a row, maybe even the Atlanta game, where if you don't know the jerseys and they didn't show the score and you just watch the plays, you find yourself saying, well, that team is just better than that team. And it's not hard. It's not hard to see that team is just better than that team. And I've been preaching for weeks. The Lions are their biggest opponent, right? I made fun of my brother Kenny and my other brother Bear. I said, because they were like, 14-3. And I was like, whoa, let me dial it back a little bit. I think 13-4, maybe 12-5. But here's the reality: this is a really good football team, and it's fun now to just say it without feeling like, oh, some dude on Twitter. Although wait, some dude's going to be on Twitter in a few minutes anyway. But this situation where you're sitting middle of the second quarter and yeah, we're gonna win this game. Yeah, this game might not even be close. And boring isn't the right word, by the way. I can't say I was ever bored because I enjoy the dynamics of it. And there's a degree of it that is when we get up big, do we let them back in? Because our team has gone up big in the past. And the thing that they would do is somehow the other team would come back and you allow the refs to play. Now, this team seems to get bored in the third quarter. But then at some point, they just put their foot on your neck. And I used to call for this. And I told this story on the podcast a bunch of times, right? My good friend Chris, who is actually a Packer fan, but lives in Metro Detroit. And we're at a Lions Packers game. And the Lions are giving the Packers the business. And one of the Lions fans looked at him and says, what are you doing here? Why are you wearing that? I think he's wearing a Clay Matthews jersey. And he said, look, man, I'm a Packer fan. This is what I do. And the guy kept messing with him. And he said, hey, where's the trophy room in this building? And the guy was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, the room, because like at Lambeau, we got a room where we keep all our Super Bowl trophies. Where's your trophy room? And the guy didn't get that Chris was just smashing him, right? and and so we started to talk about that. And we came to this conclusion. There's a mentality that we call the trophy room mentality. Teams that win Super Bowls, teams that are great, teams that have trophy rooms have a mentality. And when they're up 3 scores, the game's over. When they're up 2 scores, the game's over. And I'm seeing the Lions do this. And I'm not familiar with this. Today, there was never a worry. I mean, the real thing is I watched the games historically in this position. And for most of the game today, I was something like this, right? I was leaning way back. I was sipping on some coffee. And it was a fun watch, don't get me wrong. So the specifics are simple. 42-24, and it wasn't even that close. I think Carolina got some garbage yards and some garbage points when we were up 3 scores and just were kind of ready to get the hell out of there. That is a great place to be as a fan because it says to you, your team, they were up 14 nothing before my lunch was ready. I was still in the microwave and it was 14 nothing. And then you knew, okay, it's over. This team isn't giving up a 14 nothing lead to that team. So for all the SOL guys, I have to do the disclaimer. They were playing an 0-4 team with a rookie quarterback. Okay, that's out of the way. But they did what they were supposed to do. This was a business meeting. That's another thing we did. Sometimes just go take care of business. The Lions radio announcer does a great job. Shout out to Dan Miller. He's awesome. He says, "Hey, this is a business meeting. Go in, take care of your business, go home." Right? And that's what it was today. It was a simple business meeting. The Lions handled it relatively easily, but there's still things to take away, right? They were missing arguably their best player, Amara St. Brown. They were missing Gibbs and Branch, two good rookies. So you're missing 3 players. Now, in week 1, when we went into Kansas City and won, they put an asterisk because Kansas City was missing some players. Nobody's going to do that for us. And that's fine. I didn't like it then. I wouldn't like it if they did it now. But I think the thing is, what good teams are able to do, what really good teams are able to do, is still beat you even when they're not fully healthy. They can beat you when they don't play a complete game. But there are things about this team that I'm ready to stamp and say legitimate, right? And it's not even just about the record. 4-1 is fantastic. I think the next 2 weeks defines the narrative. And there's only 3 options, right? You lose both games, you're 4-3 going into your bye week, and people have questions. You split them. And I guess there's 4 options. It depends on which one you win, right? If you lose to Tampa, there's going to be a letdown. And then if you go into Baltimore and get a win, you'll go into the bye week back on a high, sitting at 4-2, I guess, 5-2. Still be positive. If you win both games, they're gonna talk about the Lions in a different way. I'm gonna talk about the Lions in a different way, and it'll be deserved because you come back from the bye and you host the Raiders. And you're staring 6-1 in the face or 7-1 in the face. When you start getting those kinds of numbers, you're talking about seeding. You're talking about home field through the playoffs. You're talking about NFC championship games. And I'm not ready to go out that far. I will talk about Tampa a little later, but the next 2 weeks, and we got to take it in small chunks. The players will say all we care about is Tampa, right? And that's what they should say. I'm looking out. I'm looking out a little bit because this team is 4-1 and Baltimore lost to Pittsburgh today. I don't I can't sit here and say I don't I eat cornbread and drink Kool-Aid every day. You guys know who I am. I need to win all 3 games and be 7-1, and they're gonna start getting different types of attention. They already flexed the Tampa game to be the game of the week, 4 o'clock. I think the Raiders might be Monday night, or maybe it's Baltimore. They're already getting a different kind of attention, but I think that um, it is impressive now to watch the team play because you don't see all that stuff. You don't see those things, right? There were a couple of penalties when they were dumb. The Anzalone penalty, I think, was bad. I think the roughing the passer penalty on Charles Harris was bad. They do a couple things, and I'm not the guy who hates all penalties. If a receiver beats a corner, grab him because the other option is give up a touchdown. So I'm not the guy who they have this many penalties, so they're not disciplined. Sometimes, if a guy is really good, if Justin Jefferson beats you on a double move, grab his ass. Yeah, take the penalty and let's take another crack at it. So I look at them in depth, but there were no turnovers by the Lions. They capitalized on the Carolina turnovers, and they played clean, complementary football. When the defense got a turnover, the offense scored a touchdown. That's another definition of complementary football. They got pressure on the young quarterback. We've seen this 3 weeks in a row. We're not going to face young quarterbacks every week. So we'll see how Baker handles it. We'll see how Lamar handles it. We'll see how Jimmy Garoppolo, if he's not hurt by then, handles it. But all in all, today, when on paper was a mismatch, the Lions were clearly the better team. They went in, they did their job, they played like the better team, and it wasn't as close as 42-24. It was a dominant performance, really, in all areas of the game. And now we keep seeing that. We keep seeing them dominate good to average teams. Atlanta won today. They might be good. I don't know. People thought Green Bay was good. We went into Lambeau and manhandled them. So at some point, the data, and those who know me know I work in data and statistics, the data screams, the Lions are a really good football team. So I'm just going to start talking about them like that. I'm not even going to mention cornbread and Kool-Aid because now my thoughts and the podcast and the tone of the podcast is going to go from hope and wish and I think to I, that's what I saw, right? So like the game flow today, and again, appreciate you listening. Those who you are, appreciate any kind of love you want to share. This is a good football team. It's an exciting time to be a Lions fan. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about just like the game flow, a few key players and stats, and then we're gonna do the Twitter X. I don't know what we're calling it. I think we're calling it the X3 or something. Three three questions from I don't know X3. I think is what we're gonna call that segment. And we find that to be interesting because no matter what, we generally find a negative comment. And the only negative thing coming out of the day to me was Emmanuel Mosley getting injured again, and I don't know how serious it is. But so from a game flow, I like the stops, and like I said, I blinked and it was 14-0. This offense is really good, and it's good not because they have the superstar. You take a team like Minnesota, we don't have a receiver as good as Justin Jefferson. We just don't. We don't. There are teams who have running backs. Well, now we're going to talk about our running back later. What we have is this variety of weapons. Laporta. When Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown are back, you think about what we have. And then Josh Reynolds just keeps making plays. And I don't know how I want to feel about Josh Reynolds. I heard people and had people texting me earlier in the year, we need to go get a number one receiver. We need to make a trade and get, oh, there's somebody this week. Everybody, Chase Claypool. Oh, you can get Chase Claypool for nothing. Okay. Why would we go get a fifth receiver? Why would we spend draft capital? Because he wouldn't be Amon-Ra's first. We agree, right? Laporta's probably two. There's a day where we want Gibbs to be three. I think Reynolds has made a case to be four. And then you got to put JMO in there somewhere. I would not make Chase Claypool a priority over any of them. And now it's moot because he got traded to Miami. So like that kind of stuff where people on Twitter just want to trade for somebody. Just make a trade. They don't need to make a trade. I think the wide receiver room is fine. And JMO had a bad drop, but he's working his way back. That was a laser pass though. But Reynolds dropped one, Laporta dropped one. Laporta's was a tough catch, but he should have caught it. So I don't think there's the offense is versatile. That's the word I was looking for. The versatility in this offense, because Montgomery will jam it down your throat when he has to, and then later in the game, if we need to give him a rest, you see Craig Reynolds can get the job done. This team probably won't, other than trick plays, which is kind of cool, won't blow you away on paper with the talent. They just, I hate to say it, they just keep punching away, pounding you and biting kneecaps. I've embraced that. So by the way, I'm done with the Jamal conversation. If you go on the X feed and you mention Jamal Williams, I will never ever read one of your tweets. David Montgomery is just better. Jamal Williams was a nice complimentary back to DeAndre Swift. David Montgomery is a feature back. David Montgomery is a difference maker. You can put your foot on people's necks, handing David Montgomery the ball, and he's just gouging, taking the heart out of their defense 8 yards at a time, 7 yards at a time. I don't I don't have anything against Jamal, right? I don't, but I got to reiterate. I heard it at the beginning. I thought, okay, he's not going to score the 17 touchdowns Jamal scored. Minus an injury, he'll score more than 17 touchdowns this year. Some of them will be catches, but he is better than Jamal. And that's no slight against Jamal. David Montgomery's better than I thought he was. That's just a reality. So you can still go, oh, we should have never let Jamal go. No, no, yes, we should have. Jamal wanted too much money for us. And we have Montgomery on a really fair and nice contract, and he's just producing. He dictates the game. I think he went over 100 today. And when you can just pound people, especially if you jump up 14, now you take over the game. You dictate the game. It's so different, right? By the late first quarter, Lions started playing a whole bunch of soft zone. They were giving up the short passes. They didn't look like he had a great day. Yeah, most of that was allowed. That's fine. But Carolina never had an answer, right? And then those couple of injuries that happened should have shut down the momentum, which was kind of weird. Those three drops on that one drive. Reynolds dropped one, JMO dropped one, and Laporta's was a tough catch, but he dropped that one too. But that killed the drive, and it didn't matter. It was 14-7 at the time, and we ended up coming back and putting our foots on their neck anyway. I think the third quarter lull concerns me just a little, right? You can get bored when you're up 3 scores. And so back-to-back games, I think they took the third quarter off. And so part of me says you can beat a team by 18 points only playing 3 quarters, right? Which they played the third quarter, especially defensively, right? But when you get up big, it gets difficult to keep well, except for Aiden Hutchinson, everybody else, I guess. But when it's time to snuff somebody out and they start to get a little hope, maybe they get a garbage touchdown and you need to stomp them out. Goff sneaks first play of the fourth quarter. You hit them again, and it's kind of, and then they're just like, damn, because took everything they could to try and get back a little hope, and then you just stomp them out. So I like that part of the team. I think the team is really good at let's jump on them. Last year they started 2-6 or 1-6 because they were getting off the slow starts, and that's the difference. This 4-1 team doesn't really get off the slow starts. They cleaned up the messes from Seattle. There's no doubt. The last 3 games, they cleaned that up. They're getting pressure on the quarterback. Shout to Isaiah Buggs because I think he had a part of it. He didn't play the first 2. He's played ever since. They've gotten tremendous pressure. They don't always get there. Today, I don't know how many sacks they had. Maybe 2. I know Hutch had 1, but they're getting pressure on the other teams. And these are all young guys. So we're going to see Baker. We're going to see Lamar. We're going to see Garoppolo over the next 4 weeks with the bye in there. So, but I think you see a difference from Seattle. They learned it. They figured it out and they learned it. So the soft zone is when you're up big, they can get some garbage yards, they can get some garbage points, but there is no doubt who the better team was. Not at any point in the game. And I'm biased, but I don't think a Carolina fan at any point in that game thought, "Oh, we got a chance. We're a better team." And it would have been the same way if that game had been played in Carolina. Um, so yeah, I think that from a game flow standpoint, that lull is something they need to be careful with against better teams. But I believe that when it's time to step up and make plays, they step up and make plays. They just do. Somebody does. And Jerry Jacobs, whoever it is, somebody steps up and makes plays. So um, statistically, I think I find the stats part interesting because if you just looked at a box score, you might not understand how dominant the Lions can be. I felt this way last week, but I didn't really talk about it. The box score is supposed to be, in theory, if you didn't see the game and you look at the box score and the stats, you can figure out how a team won the game. The score, the actual score of the game should align with the box score. You can't really do that with the Lions. It is a different kind of deal. The offense is crazy good. I mean, we haven't even seen the best of the offense, right? JMO isn't back yet. Amon Ra's out. Gibbs and Montgomery have both missed time. The offensive line, whether it's Vitae or Decker was out for a while. I think we lost Ragnow for a minute. Everybody, if God forbid we have a stretch where the offensive line's intact, which is not football, I get it. That almost never happens. But just a stretch where JMO's up to speed. So give him another couple weeks. Let's see what he's like after the bye in Vegas. JMO's up to speed. St. Brown's healthy. Laporta's healthy. Gibbs and Montgomery are healthy. We put up 42 today. Short fields on some turnovers. Granted, this offense is scary good. I feel like today is probably as good as we've seen them so far, and I don't even think they're there yet. I mean, they can't be there. They're missing Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can't say, oh, this is the best version of that offense. Of course it's not. They can be better. And that's what I think the league, because they don't watch them. They don't watch them like we do. I don't think the league even realizes. We haven't even seen the best lines. They're 4-1, steamrolling teams. They're going into Kansas City and Lambeau and winning decisively or winning games. Kansas City wasn't necessarily it was, I thought it was, but they're winning games, home and road. They haven't played their best football yet. And that's hard for people who don't watch them every week probably to understand. This team can be better. And that's Dan Campbell's job. That's Aaron Glenn. That's Ben Johnson. I love the trick plays. That flea flicker was perfectly timed. Pulled it out. It worked perfectly. Um, they do it with a lot of different people. And Somebody asked me the other day, who's the star on the Lions offense? And it shocked me that it took me a minute. Well, it took me more than a minute. I thought, and you could make a case for St. Brown, right? You could make a case for Montgomery. Hell, in this case, you could maybe make a case for Sam Laporta. But I thought for a long time, and I said, the reason they're good is that they don't have an inherent star. There's nobody that the other team's defense has a meeting on Wednesday before the game, and they point at the screen and say, we got to stop that guy. If we stop that one dude, you beat the Lions. Now, that's not how it works, which is why I'm so encouraged. My biggest positive comes from that. That Wednesday meeting with the other team's defense is we got to stop him and we got to control him and him. And if we stop all those guys, we still got to control him. And that doesn't even include JMO. When JMO comes in, even if he doesn't beat you by himself, what JMO will do, the safety, JMO makes the safety have to do different things. And I want to see JMO up to speed playing with St. Brown and Laporta because I don't know what you do. And Josh Reynolds and Khalif are just going to do what they do. They're going to get their 3, 4, 5 plays a game, critical plays, third down catches, whatever it might be. But if your safety's got to worry about JMO, who the hell's covering St. Brown? And if you got both of them covered, who's got Laporta? And oh, Gibbs might be coming out of the backfield on a wheel route. That's what I'm at this place where I'm when they're right, when they're really right, healthy, everybody's up to speed. I don't think we've seen the best version of the Lions offense. And they put up 42 points today and they're 4-1. I don't know what their scoring average is. It's got to be in the high 20s. They put up 34, I think, 30 something against Seattle. Only they 34 against Green Bay and 42 today. If you just go straight average, they got to be in the high 20s, nearly 30 points a game. And they haven't even played their best ball. That's what's the most exciting. They just find guys that make plays. That catch by Reynolds in the back of the end zone was phenomenal. To get his feet down, I don't know if it looks easy. I'm telling you, it's not. And now set everything I said aside. The defense is balling out. They're getting pressure on quarterbacks. They're getting turnovers. Jerry Jacobs got out of whatever was bothering him the first 2 weeks and is playing like the Jacobs we saw last year. And like I said before, they dragged his ass on Twitter, and I'm so happy for that dude because he deserves it. He deserves every bit of it. They 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 make it hard for you to score. They gave up some garbage points today, but truly, that's not a 24-point defensive effort because I think 2 of those touchdowns were garbage yards, garbage points, with help from the refs in a couple of cases. But on defense, if they're coming after you, AG is blitzing at the right times. I didn't even talk about the running game of this. I only talked about receivers. If 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 the defense plays the way they do, creates turnovers and pressure, the offense will score. You're giving them short fields, and they're not just getting field goals. They scored 6 touchdowns today. No field goals. Forget the field goals. And some of it was Campbell went for it on fourth down. I think he was 1-1. And I would have went for it on both. I don't question those calls anymore. If you're telling me you're going to get it half the time and you're in their territory, I don't even care about those. But the offense makes you pay. The defense creates problems and the offense makes you pay. But like rushing today, 28 carries, well, minus the Bridgewater Neals, 28 for 161. That's 5.4 maybe a carry and 3 touchdowns running. Reynolds, Demo, and the golf sneak. If we can run the ball down your throat, get pressure on your quarterback, get you behind, so now you can't run because you're chasing. You're down 14 in the blink of an eye, or like the Packers was 24-3 out of nowhere. If that's the formula, okay, I take it. I take it. I take boring ass wins, right? But then the bigger thing to me is when you can close the game out with a dagger type possession. That's what I call it. And it was the Craig Reynolds possession. He had like 7 carries, 50 yards, and a touchdown. That drive was the dagger drive. That was where they score a couple garbage points, think, oh, no, maybe we still have a chance. And then we just go 6, 7, 10 plays, take 5 minutes off the clock, and get in the end zone, right? And then you're like, oh shit, yeah, we're not gonna come. Right. That moment where the other team has that hope dashed, dreams squandered, or whatever the term you want to use. Love those moments. And what the best thing I saw today, to me, was there was a run by Reynolds, maybe 20 or so yards. He got inside the 10 and he got up and assumed he was coming out of the game. He started running toward the sideline, and the cameraman was perfect. He caught the running back coach and David Montgomery saying, "Nope, nope, stay your ass in there. Nope, don't you come out." And he was exhausted. He went back in, then he had a run for like a yard, and they wouldn't take him out. And then the next play, he scored the touchdown. And from the sidelines, one of the first dudes in the end zone was David Montgomery, right? Picked him up, congratulated him. This is a guy who was probably fourth string. I mean, if you say Gibbs is second, there's a case that Bam Knight was third, and if Bam doesn't get hurt, he might not play. This is like your fourth string running back, and you got your starter, your feature back, forcing him. Montgomery could have went back in the game, got that easy touchdown, padded his stats, and they were like, "No, stay your ass in the game." Reynolds gets the touchdown, and Montgomery comes out and lifts him up in the air. That's the culture, right? I did a whole speech a couple of pods ago about Sheila and the culture that's built through Brad Holmes, through Dan Campbell, through Jared Goff. That's the culture. When Demo is out there lifting up Craig Reynolds in the end zone, that's a team. That's a culture. That's why we're going to be tough to beat. That's why. And I just did the we thing. Somebody told me I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say we like I'm a part of the team. And I told him to kiss my ass, right? Because you don't know me, you don't know the investment I put in this team. You don't, just shut up. He was a Bears fan, so it was just I think it was just salt because I think they were 0-3 at the time. So um, I think that there's a culture with this team that's going to allow them to stay really, really good. Carolina had less than 100, I would say 98 or 99, and I would say half that was garbage. Half that was garbage. So specific players today, though. So this is still part of Mike's here's a guy thing that I still like to do, because especially today with guys out. There's always golf, right? Golf was 20 of 28, like 240, 235, three touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. And there's three drops that I remember. Could have easily been 23 of 28. So you think about the accuracy and the control. And he took some hits today. The O line didn't do him any favors today. The those three drops. But Jared Goff just controls the game. He's super accurate. I'm not going to do a whole bunch of golf because I know a bunch of y'all don't like him. And I don't really care. But Josh Reynolds, just consistently, there are people like, I've said trade and get some. When they trade and get anyone, when they need a tough catch, Josh Reynolds makes it. He runs good routes. He's big as hell. That touchdown play, everybody doesn't catch that ball. Everybody can't get to that ball and then get his toes down. So he had like four catches for 75 yards or something like that and a touchdown. Hutch, motor never stops. What a, I, everybody knows I bleed green and white, but I'm a Hutch guy. Hutchinson. Just he's disruptive. He had a tackle for loss. He had a couple of quarterback hits. He had the interception and the sack. He's going to be in the conversation for defensive player of the year, in my opinion, and I think he will deserve it. I talked about Jerry Jacobs already. After the first 2 weeks, what they were saying about him, there's a degree of I respect the fight back. I respect that you didn't lose any confidence. The coaches didn't lose confidence in him, and he's balled out 3 straight weeks. I mean, he's a difference maker in the game the last 2 weeks. Those interceptions are huge. He got three interceptions in 2 weeks. Quietly, Will Harris had a really good game. With Branch out, there were people that were scared. Will Harris might not get the credit he deserves because he's versatile. And the thing is, people will say this like it's an insult, and I'm going to say it, and I don't mean it as an insult. He doesn't have a natural fit. There are guys who are like, okay, that guy's a nickel, right? That guy's an outside corner. That guy's a safe. He's a strong, or he's a will safety. The thing about Will Harris is, I think he could play any of those four positions if you needed him to. And that's how I think Dan Campbell and AG view him as this is a guy who we can plug in spots, and that's your depth. Will Harris was a starter at one point, and now you have guys that start. Malcolm Rodriguez, same way. Guys who were starters are now depth guys. Tracy Walker, to a degree, guy who's a starter now is a depth guy. Um, I can never say enough about Cam Sutton. I think he gave up a catch today. I think he gave up a touchdown finally, right? Nobody talks about Cam Sutton, and it's cool because it just means he's doing his job exceptionally well. Cam Sutton has put five really good ball games together and nobody talks about him. So I go out of my way on the X feed or on this podcast. Cam Sutton might be the best defensive player we have, and we don't recognize it because the way his job is, if he just does his job well, you don't talk about him. And I had a guy who was like, "Who is that number one?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, number one's pretty good." And I got a friend who's a Steeler fan who constantly says, "You're welcome for Cam Sutton." And but on the other side, I hope Emmanuel Mosley's okay. That dude fought back from an Achilles and then a hamstring, and then he got hurt again today. And I heard it was a knee. So that will suck if that's what that is. I hope Cam Sutton's fine. All right, let's do the X chat Twitter times three or whatever the hell we'll call this. The X3. Okay, we're gonna call it the X3. I'm just gonna take three things from the X post. No bullshit that they might too good a game. No, fine. All right, first one. What's the real difference when one team seems to be clearly better? Um, I don't fully understand that question, but I think the answer is depth. Like I think the Lions were good starters, but then the minute somebody got hurt, they were in trouble. Today was a good example. You did not have St. Brown or Gibbs, and the old Lions would have a massive talent drop off from whoever was replacing them. And I'm not suggesting Reynolds, Khalif, or Marv are better than St. Brown because they will tell you they're not. But if they go out and as a collective give you the production, that's it. What the Lions have the ability to do now is that if St. Brown is out, you spread those throws to Khalif, to Reynolds, to Laporta. You spread them out and you still get the productivity. And you have a quarterback who just doesn't seem to give a damn. He's going to throw to the guy who's open and he's going to make good throws. He dropped one in on Reynolds that was a throw that I don't say this a lot. I used to say this about number nine. Not a lot of quarterbacks in the league can make that throw. Every quarterback in the league can probably make most throws Jared Goff does, but Jared Goff just does it over and over and over. And that's the thing about him. I don't know what it's going to take to get people there. But the answer to the question is depth. I think there's a degree of, I don't really know how to quantify this. Everybody's good in the first quarter when nobody's tired, when everybody's fresh. They're all NFL players. Every dude who sets foot on the field on a Sunday is phenomenal. Not good. There's no bums in the NFL. They're all exceptional world class athletes. The ones, the difference is how do you play when you're tired in the fourth quarter? How do you play when your team's down three touchdowns? What's the effort? How do you execute? Right? How does your coach under stress? Down, does he make risky? So there's a degree of how you perform in the stressful situation that I think makes a difference. The teams with the right culture play just as hard in the fourth as they do in the first. They play just as hard when they're down two touchdowns as they do when they're up two touchdowns. That's the difference. That's the difference I see on the Lions. Getting off the field on third down, the key stops. The Lions make key stops now when the refs don't help the other guys. But I think it is difficult to look at this team and say you've seen this before. That's why the SOL guys hate my guts and I hate their guts, so it's all good. But the SOL guys don't want to be on here. They won't tweet at me anymore. Well, I always talk about them, rightly or wrongly. But even they, I think even the most SOL of SOL guy is watching his team saying, "All right, all right, I see things. I see things." I talked about a guy last week prior to the Green Bay game, called into the radio and said, "I think the Lions are going to lose this game because this is the kind of game they would lose." And it's literally all he said. And then he referenced 2008 game. And I remember thinking to myself, there's not a single player on this team that was on the 2008 team. And he never said the Packers are better or the Packers are going to beat the Lions. He said the Lions are going to lose. That is conditioning. Like that is conditioning of Lions fans. And I'm done with that. I'm over that. I have seen enough of this team. And I don't just mean this year. And I don't just mean the reality, guys, is their last 15 games, they're 12-3. They're 12-3 in a 15 game stretch. Go look in history, find a stretch where they were 12-3. You're probably back at the 91 team. They're 12-3 in their last 15 games. You could say, oh, they play nothing but bad teams. Nah, that don't jive. Kansas City's not a bad team. Sorry, there's other teams that were good last year that they beat. They will have to prove it. And I contend I've moved up a couple of levels. And at 4-1, these next 2 weeks, two road games against two teams that I think any reasonable person would say are minimum good, if not pretty good, right? They're good teams. Baltimore may be better than Tampa, but both games are on the road. This team goes and wins both of those games in the fashion that they won, say, in Green Bay or even in Kansas City, or just the way they beat people. The conversation changes. They go into the bye week. If they go into the bye week 6-1 with a home game against the Raiders coming out. uh the the whole narrative on the Lions are going to change. And all these people are late to the bandwagon. And I'm never going to be the guy that I've been here. Great. We all know I'm 54 years old. I've loved the Lions since I was 7. I don't care about any of that. Just keep winning games. Just keep winning games. It makes the podcast more fun. Keep winning games is all I care about. But the answer is good teams have depth so that they're when a guy gets hurt, there's not a huge drop off. They're still as competitive or close to be. And good teams play well in stressful situations, crunch big third downs, fourth quarter of close games like in Kansas City, or when they got a big lead, the other team has scored and gets some hope, and then you stomp them out like they did last week with Green Bay, like they did today. That's what really good teams do. And the Lions have never had that combination of leadership and culture and talent that allowed them to be that. And I think they have that now. All right, next one. Why do I think supposed Lions fans are still hesitant to embrace Jared Goff? That's good. He wants me to do a golf thing. Okay, fine. Um, so there's good reasons, right? No, they're not. No, they're not. They're mostly bad reasons, but there might be a good one. So the first part, specifically with Goff, is Sean McVay threw him under the bus as he was leaving LA. Sean McVay created this narrative by benching him, by talking up his backup, by literally not playing him until he had to. Sean McVay created this narrative like the Rams didn't get there because of Goff. And they make the trade, and Stafford comes in and promptly wins the Super Bowl. So it really, really reinforced McVay's narrative. So when the trade happened, and it's in the archives, the first couple years, the podcast had a different name, The Roar, until I found out there were 100 podcasts called The Roar. Mike and I did a podcast. You can find it on YouTube if you want to go back and look at it. The night of the Stafford trade or next day, I think it happened like late on a Saturday. And Mike and I did a podcast that Sunday or something like that on the trade. And I told him then, and I stick by it now. I said, Mike, this is the unicorn of all trades. I think everybody's going to win. And Brad Holmes did a press conference and said, "Oh yeah, I loved getting the two first round picks and the third, but I wanted Jared Goff." Like he said, I scouted Jared Goff, I drafted Jared Goff, I wanted Jared Goff. So because I had a really good feeling about Brad Holmes early, I said, I'm gonna roll with this. If he's saying everybody else was like, Goff's the bridge guy, draft. Oh, who was the kid from Liberty 2 years ago? That's I don't know where he is. He probably still in um Malik Malik Willis, right? There was a whole thing going in that draft after Goff's first year where the Lions went 3-13-1. Goff's not the answer. Get rid of him. Draft Malik Willis at number 2, where we took Hutch. There were people saying draft Malik Willis number 2. I have nothing against Malik Willis. It's fine. I don't. I don't. Brad Holmes is who I trust, and I've gained more and more trust in. Brad Holmes said prior to that draft, we don't think we have a quarterback problem. We think we have our quarterback. So then Goff comes out last year, and even when they were losing, Goff was playing well. Has a phenomenal year. Go back and look at the numbers. I don't know, well over 4,000 yards, 27-3 or something like that. Touchdown to interception. Some ridiculous year. It doesn't matter. People went into this offseason and said they should trade for Lamar Jackson. And I did a number of podcasts that said the logistics of trading for Lamar are impossible, first of all. Goff makes 30, Lamar wanted 45. That's 15 million in cap space. You can have two other players. So any kind of move for Lamar would have been you couldn't do it. Execute it from a cap draft capital, put together the trade, what it would have done to your team didn't make sense. But I only spent 30 seconds on that. I spent 10 minutes on Jared Goff is really good. We have a quarterback going into this draft. I said, look, they want to take some developmental guy later, I like Dorian Thompson Robinson, for example. Cool. And then I did the preseason one after they took Hendon Hooker later, and the preseason pod literally 6 weeks ago. You can go look it up. I said, guys, Goff's our quarterback now. Goff's going to be our quarterback next year. And I would not be surprised. I believe I said give him 3 years at 42 or 43 per, 3 years and 135. Goff's going to be our quarterback for the next 5 years. If it were up to me, this offseason, I'd give him a 3 year extension for $140 million. And I wouldn't sneeze at it. And he probably wouldn't sneeze at it. And we're going to be competitive. And so that doesn't break the bank. It's not 50, 51 million. It's somewhere in the 42, 43, maybe 45 range. I might go that high. I don't know. No, I think that's about 47. It's what he deserves. And we can stay competitive, right? So the golf question partly is the way we acquired him. And then Stafford went and won a Super Bowl. So that didn't help. But there's also this group of people who claim to be Lions fans, but they don't always root for the team. They believe that being a good fan is being critical, and they will call it holding the team accountable and calling the radio station and requesting someone get fired. Um, that is what some people think being a good fan is. Some people think being a good fan is I want to see the backup. Had a guy tell me 2 weeks ago when the Lions were 2-1, getting ready to play Green Bay. I think they're winning in spite of Jared Goff. And I said, all that tells me is you don't watch Detroit Lions football. That's all that tells me. Because you can't watch Detroit Lions football and tell me they're winning in spite of him. And I asked him to name 5 quarterbacks playing better football over the last 2 years. And he stopped after Mahomes, Hurts, Allen, and Burrow. And then he slowed down. And I said, you can stop because you're not going to find any more if you really do the data. You might like Dak Prescott. That's fine. You might think Justin Herbert is more talented, and I won't debate you. The question I asked was who's playing better football? Jared Goff's in the prime of his career. He's playing his best football. I mean, I think, and the last reason. So the first reason is the way he left LA. Second reason is there's people who just never like the Lions quarterback. And no matter who he is, they want the backup. Those people exist. But I think the biggest one is that human beings often in real life, sports fans for sure, we tend to marginalize really good, right? Because it's not great. We get obsessed with great. And that guy who compares golf to Mahomes, you can't compare golf to him. That's idiotic. They're so obsessed with great. We've got to have great that they marginalize really good. And what we have right now is a really good quarterback who's doing everything in his power to help us win games. All of the simple metrics say it: touchdown interception ratio, completion percentage, QBR. The advanced metrics say it. Goff is really smart with the football. He performs well in third down. All of the metrics say, hey, Detroit Lions, you guys have one of the best 5 or 6 quarterbacks in football. But nobody will say Jared Goff is great. Jared Goff is elite. And that obsession with great and elite tends to cause people to miss really, really good. And I have a friend, Bill Carroll, who's a super smart guy around a lot of things, sports is included. He has a saying: there should be something called the Hall of Very Good, right? You're just not quite good enough to get in the Hall of Fame, but there should be another building, Hall of Really, Really Good. And maybe a guy didn't play long. Like my favorite player in the history of players is Herman Moore. I think he should be in the Hall. I tweet all the time, hashtag 84HOF all the time. There's an argument based on other people that are in there. If there was a Hall of Really, Really Good, he'd be in it because he was so good. And he's such a good dude. But Jared Goff might be one of those Hall of Very Good guys. And I think that in general, fans and sometimes people in real life miss really, really good because they're obsessed with great. And that can be sad. I'm not gonna criticize them too much, but that can be sad, right? Because really, really good is exactly what it sounds like. It's really, really good. It is. And there's a lot of things in life that are really, really good. Maybe not great, but they're really, really good. Um, and we miss out. So all right, last one. Wow, I'm long. I've been chatty today. Tampa. If today wasn't a trap game, where's the trap game? Huh. So I never thought today was a trap game. Today did not look at all like, wait, I'm not even going to buy that there is a trap game. I don't think there is a trap game. I think this team has shown a propensity to fight no matter what. The worst thing I've seen from this team is they got bored up 3 touchdowns in consecutive weeks. And if that's their worst quality, we can live with that. Um, they bounced back. They bounced back a couple times against Kansas City. They put their foot on the necks of both Green Bay and Carolina when they needed to. I don't know. I don't think you can call Baltimore a trap game because that game is in Baltimore. We think Baltimore is good. Baltimore might be the favorite, and they could lose that game, and I wouldn't call it a trap game. Even next week, I think Tampa's okay. Tampa's a good team, and the game's in Tampa, so I wouldn't even call that a trap game. I think trap games come when you're looking ahead, and this team doesn't seem to do that. And I guess the theory is if they're focused on Baltimore, could they take Tampa lightly? Yeah, I just don't see any evidence that Dan Campbell teams take anybody lightly. Not anymore. I don't see those types of players on this team. I don't see that type of coaching staff. I don't think this organization does that. I've said before, and I think I'm probably going to say it every podcast now. I like this team. I do. They're 4-1. They're winning football. I love where the organization is. I told somebody this the other day. I love the organization. The winning football games, in my opinion, is a reflection of the organization. And I don't know that we've ever loved the organization, right? We're not calling for anybody's job, and that's easy. But I think the best way for me to put it right now, where I am, I enjoy watching the team. I love the organization, the culture, the leadership everywhere, from Sheila down. The relationship Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have is a direct reflection of the culture Sheila established. The way Jared Goff, who he's become, is because Brad Holmes knew who he was, and he came in and bought into it. He could have been down. He could have felt, especially after the Rams win the Super Bowl, he could have just folded the tent, collected his check, and not cared. That dude is good, and I like him. So, to the question, where's the trap game? I honestly don't know if there is a trap game. I think the culture of this team and this organization is such that there's no traps. They work hard, they focus, they play hard. It feels like every play, whether they make the play or not, whether they're always successful or not. But when you're a team that can run the ball well and you can defend the run well, when you're opportunistic on defense and you create pressure, and then your offense takes short fields and scores touchdowns, you're a team. I don't know if there's a superstar on this team. I don't know. ASB might be a superstar. David Montgomery might be a superstar. Hell, Jared Goff might be a superstar. Brian Branch might be a superstar. But all those say might. I got to be honest. If you were like, name the superstar in the Detroit Lions, there's a comment section. If you're listening and you want to give me your thoughts, who is the superstar? Because I don't know if they have one. But you know what? I don't really care. I don't know if you need one to succeed. You got a bunch of really good players. You got a room full of hungry players that play hard every game. So I don't think Tampa's a trap game. I never thought this was a trap game. I fully expected exactly what I saw. I thought the Lions were more talented. I thought they would come out, play hard, take control early, and the game would never be in doubt. And I feel like that's what I saw. So I don't think there's a trap game. I think they're going to win next week. I think they'll win. They win in the Kansas City and Green Bay and won. I certainly think they can go to Tampa. And I don't know how Baltimore's game happened today. If Baltimore isn't who we thought they were, they can go to Baltimore and win. And 2 weeks from right now, I could be talking shit about a 6-1 team going into the bye. Do you know how silly that podcast is going to be? If they go win those 2 road games and I got to do a podcast and they're 6-1. Yep, yep, that'll be fun. That'll be fun. So they moved the game to 425, which sucks because I don't wait all day for the game now, and I'm so impatient. Night games are worse, but 425 wait'll suck. If that means something to you, yeah, they're a primetime game now. They're featured. They're getting that kind of attention. It's another test. It's a good team on the road. We got to stack another win. That's 3 in a row. Just keep stacking them. Don't think about Baltimore. Don't think about anybody else. Just go down to Tampa. Same approach. Business meeting. Go down there and do your work. So obviously happy about today. I think we got a good team, guys. I don't. I wish I had some insight. They just play hard and win games. So Thanks everyone who joined. Like I said, thumbs up, hearts, likes, subscribes, all that stuff is great and welcome and appreciate it. Um, if they keep winning, I'm gonna get sillier and sillier. I don't know if that's a word, but no, I'll try and keep it together. But it's a great thing right now. The culture, the organization, the how they win. That they're winning is great. How they go about their business is just impressive. So I'll wait for the trap game. I'll wait for the SOL moment, but I don't see it. So it's early, and Kenny and Bear might have been right. This might be a 14-3 football team. I look at the schedule. I don't see that many more losses. Their biggest enemy is themselves. So uh, let's do it again. Let's do it again next week, a little later. We'll probably be doing 7, 8 o'clock East, something like that after the game in Tampa. So everybody have a good week. I appreciate you. Take care.